Hey, Stephen, how you doing? Thanks for kicking things off. Okay, let's go and take a look. Tried using ink in the letters to increase the contrast. I had a small issue with ink bleed. That, and of course, that's always a problem. Unless, I want you to know that I still do this exercise on a regular basis. If I have a client who wants to use a new font, one that I'm not familiar with, I'll start tracing out letter forms. I'll start putting different letter combinations next to each other and trace them out. And the reason I do this, Stephen, is so I can get a really super intimate feel for the typeface. Specifically, we're going to talk this week about optical relationships, and these kind of nuance little elements that are built into typeface design, and they prevent optical illusions from occurring. We kind of looked at a little bit of an optical relationship in the banana with the overshoot, the concept of overshoot, and the reason why curved letter forms are made a little bit bigger than their counterparts that don't have curves that overshoot the baseline and the mean line. That's an optical relationship that's built into typefaces, and we're going to talk about that a little bit this week. But optical relationships, to a very high degree, determine the usability of a typeface, and to a high degree, the versatility of that typeface as well. So, as I said, I still do this exercise. I still get out my rapidograph and trace my pens and trace when I'm confronted with a situation where I'm requested to design using a typeface that I'm not familiar with. I mentioned rapidograph, and I say that because I'm not real sure if you have your drawing and your drafting tools around. I have a set of rapidograph pens, which are the best ever. Sakura are good too, but rapidographs are great. Really super precise with a thin, hard tip that prevents bleeding. So, I mean, I don't want you to go out and get a rapidograph for this or a set of rapidographs for this assignment, but the harder the tip, the less bleeding you're going to have. Rapidographs are, geez, $25 a pen. So, of course, I don't want you to go out and spend on something you're going to use for just one assignment. Unless, of course, you need new pens. That's a great reason to go out and get yourself a new set of rapidographs, right? I love those things. Anyway, okay, I wonder if the C is too close to the I. Yes, it is. I will. I'll talk about that a little bit. Where did you go? Oh, here you are. Sorry about that. Yep, yeah. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about everything else. But let's go ahead and the A is still a little out of place. And serifs are, I mean, we add serifs, add serifs, add kind of another moving part to the formula. So of course, it becomes more complex. So as we move from banana, a single word with all curved letter forms, now we move to three words with a variation of letter forms as well as using serif to practice kerning here. So this is a great assignment. Let's go ahead and jump right over to your okay, fire and ice, we have it. All right, and I've got this right up here. And the reason I have this up here is because I want to kind of compare the two. I have kerned this out to what I consider to be perfect kerning and letters and word spacing for this particular assignment. And I've set this not as text, but as display. So that makes a difference in kerning, of course, and that's covered in our week 2 lecture, so be sure to take a look at that. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at your work. I think your spacing is overall, I think you're a little bit tight in your spacing. We can see that right here. The C, I think, is a little too close to the I, and the E is a little too close to the C. I mean, you are literally right on top of there, almost touching. That's a little too close. I think you're too close through here too as well. So I would recommend just opening up your kerning or tracking. As we know, tracking is a new term that we learned. Tracking is adjusting the spaces between all of the letters. Kerning is adjusting space between individual letters. So right now, I think that you're a little tight all the way through. As far as letter spacing goes, right now, this space right here is a little bit tighter than this space right here, or it appears to be as such. Okay, it could be based on the density of the letters. It could be based on a number of different variables. But the point is that this is perceived to be a thinner space than this. Therefore, these words are grouped together. All right, therefore, we read this, even involuntarily, we read this as fire and ice, as opposed to fire and ice. Note this one, we just look at it. We don't even have to read it out. We just look at it and boom, it registers as fire and ice. This one registers, but it registers as fire and ice. And that's just for that little tiny extra space right in there. So again, it points to saccadic movements. Here, there are none. This is able to be perceived as one element. Whereas this, there is a saccadic jump right here, and it's based on this space right here. So it's fire and ice creating that saccadic jump right there. Okay, as far as craft goes, I think you're a little thick, and I think that points to probably the pen that you were using. But if you take a look through here, you can see that's a really thin arm right there that falls considerably below the X height, where the only thing really reaching up to the X height is that beak right there. Okay, and then we can see that we've got a really good, nice taper right there on that serif, which isn't really represented here. And the same thing with the bottoms. The bottom serifs kind of come out and go flat. They don't really gradually come out like a curve. They just come out with a nice, quick curve right down here, as opposed to the kind of these gradual curves that we're seeing here. So you want to definitely watch those serifs. Overshoot you've accommodated for quite nicely, I'd say, in most areas, with the exception of this D right here, this C, and well, that's pretty good, that E right there. But overshoot looks pretty good on the top of the letter form, so good job there. Tittle is too close. The tittle is the dot on the I. You're a little too close right there. You want to open that up just a little bit. Watch your true verticals, okay, and watch your true horizontals in your lower serifs up against the baseline there. Other than that, I think you're looking pretty good. So just, again, watch that spacing. Okay, let's just go through it real quick. You're just, I think you've got a good idea of letter spacing. I just think you're overall a little tight. So let's just get a little bit of breathing room in between letters. Keep those spaces to appear consistent. We know they're not consistent. We know they're not the identical space. In other words, the kerning between these two letters is not likely to be the same as the kerning between these two letters, but they look to be like they hold the same volume, right? So work on that. Watch your craft. Watch your bleed. I'm more concerned about craft than I am about contrast at this point. So if you have to go back to a harder lead and kind of sacrifice contrast a little bit, that's so be it. I'd rather get some really nice detail. Watch that variable stroke width right there. See that through the N right there. Again in the A, look how thin it is right through here, right through here. Watch the shapes of your closed bowls. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry, your closed counters associated with the bowls. Watch the consistency and the shapes there. And just overall, just really take a close look and let's get these letters as consistent as possible. Okay, I'm going on 8 minutes. That's too long. I wanted to be as thorough as possible, though. So great start. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. Thanks, Stephen.